Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Town of Comox for Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the land, we respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather and work is the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, the traditional keepers of this land. So we have no approval of late items. If I can get a motion to approve the agenda for April 3rd. And a seconder. All those in favor? That passes, thank you. We have two delegations to welcome this evening. First, we have Dana, I'm gonna say Forsgren, from the Comox Valley Coalition to End Homelessness to provide the annual update and their 2024 funding request. So for the two delegations, you'll have about 10 minutes with presentations if you have them, optional, and after council will ask any questions of you and we will review the requests by our next regular council meeting. So welcome to Dana, and you just have to make sure your mic is on red there. Thank you. And maybe just move it slightly down towards you.
That's good.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Should I have a clicker, or is it just I can have some assistance with moving the slides along? What's the preference here? It is PDF, so. Assist? Okay, thank you so much again. So thank you all for having me here today. My name is Dana Forsgren, and I am very new to the coalition. This is my second month as the coordinator for the Coalition to End Homelessness. My involvement with the coalition stemmed from an interest in being involved in a movement to address the root cause of homelessness in our community, and in particular the disproportionate impact on marginalized communities. It's a pleasure to be here and to provide an overview of the experience of homelessness in our community and an update on the coalition's progress this last year. My presentation today will cover the current situation of homelessness through the point in time count, the role of the Comox Valley Coalition in homelessness. I'll also share some of our highlights throughout the past year and an overview of any of the recent housing developments. I will also provide some of the recommendations that have just been provided today at the coalition on the HSS funding and recommendations for the Town of Comox as well. In 2023, the point in time count provided a snapshot of homelessness in our area. For those of you who are not aware of the point in time count, this is a community effort with volunteers and service providers who come together and assess homelessness in one day by reaching out in the community and finding people where they're at to understand the demographics of homelessness and the experience of those who are experiencing homelessness. It is really one of the only ways, one of the only tools we have to provide an estimate of the extent of homelessness we are experiencing. And this is just an estimate. So when you see these numbers in front of you, the 273 people identified as experiencing homelessness is an estimation. It is absolutely larger than that number. We know that. You can see in these demographics that a disproportionate impact is being placed on marginalized and vulnerable community members in the Comox Valley. We see an incredibly large proportionate are those who identify as Indigenous, 28%, and 27% are senior citizens. The systemic issues experienced nationwide include a lack of affordable housing, discrimination based on race, gender, and disability, and disabilities, income inequality, inadequate social safety nets, and policies that criminalize homelessness. I like to bring this forward as it is a piece of the contributing factors to homelessness in our community. And understanding these challenges is a really important piece to really address the root causes of homelessness. At this moment, the Coalition to End Homelessness is made up of a leadership team, a coordinator, and 50 agency program members who regularly attend coalition meetings, communicate about important information and resources, and collaborate and to address homelessness in our community. The Coalition and Homelessness can look very different across BC and across Canada. It is a collaborative effort involving various entities such as organizations, government bodies, community groups, advocates, peers, and people with lived experience of homelessness. In the Comox Valley, our main focus has been collaboration. So this is bringing together diverse stakeholders, allowing for resource and information sharing, fostering a more coordinated effort to address homelessness and to assess gaps in our community in social services and infrastructure. Capacity building efforts is a large piece of what we do, providing training, cultivating partnerships, and promoting innovation, all towards enhancing our collective effort. Community engagement is a key piece as well, this is through engaging the community through outreach, education, and events to raise awareness about homelessness and dispel misconceptions about homelessness. Another essential piece of the coalition's work is regularly meeting with those people in our community with lived experience of homelessness. And this is a gathering that takes place on each Friday at the library. It provides a space for those who are directly impacted by the housing crises to voice their perspectives and challenges. This largely includes individuals who need to endure outdoor living conditions, to stay in shelters, or who reside in their vehicles throughout the year. These gatherings seek to empower these voices by shedding light on their experiences and amplifying their perspectives. I'm going to share just a few of these quotes because I think it's important that we do hear about some of these experiences. Often those who are experiencing homelessness to this extent do not have a voice. They really aren't able to share their experiences. And it is quite a challenging time for those who we are meeting with. Some of the experiences they have are having to pack their items every day in the rain and in the snow, not having facilities, basic rights not being met, not having facilities to shower or to use the washroom, being senior citizens, needing to carry their items on their back all day. So some of these quotes are, "Our stuff is soaking wet and dirty. What can we do with it? It's impossible to pack it up. What are we supposed to do with no washrooms? And what are we supposed to do when we get kicked out of a park? I'm over 70 years old and I cannot keep one thing. This is ridiculous. I spent my life working and now I'm walking the streets with nowhere to go and with nothing. We have nowhere to go. Aren't we important? We have nothing." And I think this last comment really sticks out to me because it is something that I regularly hear personally, is the feeling of individuals feeling like they are second-class citizens. They do not feel like they are important or cared for. They feel like they are a nuisance. I'll move on to some of the coalition highlights for 2022 and 2023. I am quite new, but I'm going to share some of what I've gathered from the last coordinator and from those within the coalition. A big piece of since I've started has been advocating to emphasize the voices of people with lived experience of homelessness and to seek more equity and inclusion in our policies and in our programs as a way to really tackle the root cause of why people are experiencing homelessness and discrimination. There's been a major shift with a new leadership team and with a new coordinator. And we are entering a time where we'll be entering a strategic planning process with resilience planning to really figure out our direction going forward, trying to adapt to where we're at. And again, just recognizing that perhaps it's a different time for the coalition. Maybe we need to meet the community in a different way. And so this is a really exciting time for the coalition. This shift also reflects our commitment to driving policy and systemic change that address that root cause of homelessness. And again, just promoting equity throughout all operations. So some of the housing developments in progress updates. Since 2023, our coalition member agencies have successfully added 217 affordable housing and non-market units to our community. This brings the total number of units built since the initiation of the Homelessness Support Service Fund to 590 units. There are several new developments. They're also currently underway, and these are led by key organizations such as Riche Friendship Center, L'Arche, Rainbow House with Dawn to Dawn, Comox Valley Transition Society. These developments will contribute an additional 67 units to the community. Other notable updates include the expansion of the regional rent bank, which has become the North Island Rent Bank, the peer-assisted care team called PACT, and that's been announced in the Comox Valley to assist those who are experiencing mental health crises as a way to deter from RCMP or bylaw having to support those who are experiencing crises without proper training. This is a partnership with KFN and ABI. The Situation Table has been mobilized, a new initiative to bring together more collaboration and support those at high risk. Recent action has taken place with Courtenay Council, where there's more research on shelter options and applying for the Heart and Hearth program, a tiny village initiative. Most recently, we also had some really great news about the provincial shelter land purchase. And this is bringing approximately 60 supportive housing units and a 40-bed shelter to the community, a much needed development, and it's definitely something to celebrate. The Homelessness and Support Service Fund is sourced from taxes paid by Courtenay, Cumberland, and electoral areas A, B, and C. This funding plays a crucial role in addressing homelessness in our community. There's a decision process that takes place based on coalition recommendations, and this ensures that the resources are allocated effectively in line with community needs and understanding that as we are all communicating quite effectively, that we can understand the gaps that need to be met in our community. This year, the HSS funding provided $100,000 for initiatives aimed at immediately preventing or supporting homelessness. And this is a shift from prior years. And part of that is really due to the dire conditions of those experiencing homelessness at this moment. And it's also due to the CVRD, who is undergoing a homelessness needs assessment. So there's some money being kept aside to just understand what direction they want to go in when their strategy comes out of that assessment. So I have a chart here in front of you of the member agencies and community agencies who applied for the HSS funding this year. It was a lot of individuals who applied, and this is really demonstrating to us that there's a high need for support right now. This is definitely the highest number of agencies applying for the HSS over the years that we've had it. You can see that there have been some recommendations that were approved. There was a consensus today to support Wacheh Friendship Center, Dawn to Dawn Action on Homelessness, North Island Rent Bank, Solid Outreach, and a portion of the Comox Bay Care Society, the Caravan. So these have all been approved, and those recommendations will go to CVRD in a week. We did go through a consensus as well about what other agencies may be supported through the town of Comox. And I'll share today a little bit about some of these agencies and why I feel that why we all felt they were important to bring forward to you. The Comox Bay Care Society is a Caravan mobile homeless outreach service. So this is meeting people where they're at. This is bringing services into the community, into all parts of our community. It is providing a range of programs and services, including advocacy, homelessness interventions, nutrition assessments, primary medical care, mental health and substance use support, harm reduction, dental and denture programs, clothing provision, shelter supplies, water and hygiene programs, public education, and transportation support. So a wide range of options, just trying to meet the needs in the gray areas that aren't being provided to people who are experiencing homelessness. The Comox Valley Recovery Center is another agency where there's a recommendation for support. This is a vital service in our community, providing support to men aged 19 and older, with a significant focus on addressing substance use disorders, contributing to housing instability. At this time, we can see from the studies that for those who are experiencing homelessness, 25% are dealing with substance use, which is the impact and really adding to their experience of not being able to seek housing and stability. So for this, for CVRC, their services are short-term housing solutions, daily necessities, access to healthcare and mental health support, and assistance with housing applications and resource navigation, on top of other support with their substance use. Stepping Stones Recovery House for Women is the last agency we put forward. This is a home that is that can directly impact and support 32 women annually. This is providing crucial financial support for their recovery from substance use. And services include counseling, vocational training, life skills, and focusing on the root cause of substance misuse, such as healing through counseling, understanding the trauma that has impacted these individuals, and this is all to reduce relapse in the future. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much for being here today and listening to my updates about the coalition. I'm happy to answer any questions you have as well, and hopefully I can. If not, I'll definitely get back to you, but I'll do my best.
Thank you very much, Dana, and welcome to the coalition. I know Andrea and Angela, before you, provided a great conduit for getting information back on the units that were being created by the coalition. So welcome.
Thank you.
To your position.
Yeah.
Questions from council about the update and or funding requests that we will be looking at next meeting. Councillor Kerr.
Hi, thanks so much for that presentation. Just a quick question about the last two groups. I know a little bit about the Caravan just because of their primary health outreach, but the Recovery Center for Men and the Recovery House for Women. So just curious how a client would go about accessing those. So let's say someone's currently unhoused, maybe through their connections with the social supports that are available, they might find out about these two organizations, and then they could apply. Do they apply, or do they kind of have it when there's an opening, they go willingly to get the substance use treatment and short-term housing and the help with applications and all of that sounds smart, but how does a client go from being unhoused to one of these programs?
And I'm sorry to say I don't know how to access those particular services myself, and likely because I'm still relatively new to the services, but I'm very, very happy to send that information along to you. I have a lot of their information at home, and I can take a look at how their eligibility process works. Yeah.
Councillor Haslett.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure on a couple of things. What is the rent bank?
Yeah, and again, I'm still learning a little bit about all of these programs, and so the rent bank is really trying to provide short-term loans that are interest-free to those who are low income, who often wouldn't qualify, and so these are interest-free loans for up to a year, and it is to support people both through times of crises, when they simply just need a loan to get through a really difficult time, but it could be for other things, such as starting a business, needing a little bit of extra money to start a business, to be an entrepreneur, to buy a vehicle so they can start a job again, or buy their tools. So these are some of the options that have been shared with me, but it's been an incredibly successful program from what I hear.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, is it not? Okay. Okay.
It's small.
Okay.
Certainly a better alternative.
Yeah. Okay. I feel and so do you have more experience with that service?
I know that it is that.
Councillor Blacklock, just
Okay.
use your mic and
I
your
was
hand,
just saying
please.
about the rent bank.
Yeah.
They do provide those short-term loans for someone at imminent risk of homelessness.
Their website
and,
has some really good
Yeah, the
criteria.
website is very
Yeah.
clear, and there is a little bit of a surcharge involved, but it is quite minimal compared to what you would pay at a lending institution or a predatory lending institution.
And then my other question is around the resilience planning that you'd mentioned. What does that entail, and what will that be working towards?
So resilience planning is a strategic planning company that we just hired. And so we've been provided with some funding from the CVRD to do strategic planning, which is going to start next week. And this is just re-envisioning our direction. And this is, I have to say, I feel like every coalition I've spoken with is going through the same process because things have changed so quickly. in trying to understand how to be more strategic in how we're approaching homelessness. And part of that is, we absolutely want to continue with affordable housing development, but also starting to look at, again, those root causes, bringing marginalized voices to the table, understanding people's perspectives who normally aren't being asked for their involvement, and trying to understand truly what is impacting them and causing them to be impacted by a system that isn't supporting them. So that's really the reason behind it. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good. And then my last question has to do with the province and the federal government. What lengths does the coalition go to trying to work with the province, with the exception of, say, coming down saying that we purchased housing, that we've got 60 beds coming, which is great. Is there a lot of funding opportunity available? How do you go about trying to pull some money from them?
So my experience so far has really, the main partnership has been BC Housing and the BC Nonprofit Housing Association, both providing resources, some communication. I do believe there needs to be more. There's going to be more communication and federal communication with federal partners as well. One item we are thinking about when it comes to the coalition is whether we should become an entity that can receive funding and advocate for more funding. At this time, we are not an entity, so we're not able to actually seek funds ourselves. We can make our partners aware. It's really about providing information and creating collaboration, sharing resources, but we're actually not an entity to accept funds ourselves.
Okay.
Thanks for that information that you had available. And I know around the table, when we look at, it's about a $6 to $7 per household that we look at. When we're looking around 40,000, it's been really important that whatever organizations are suggested are really impacting Comox residents or available to Comox residents. From what you know in your time with the coalition, is the Caravan something that actively works in Comox? And I imagine the Recovery Center being Comox Valley likely does, but it's just important that we have access to those services if we're putting that out to our taxpayers. So is the Caravan something that does actively come into Comox?
So again, if I can get back to you on that, I would love to, because I feel like I want to make sure I have a good answer for you on that. And I would say it's a mobile response. It's a mobile response to really anywhere in the whole community. I do not know if they have a specific round, but I can absolutely get back to you and just figure out where their work normally takes place.
Okay, I can follow up with the kind of 2 questions that we would be looking at in 2 weeks. So that's great, thank you.
And I have more information to send you all as well about the applications, and so I can send that along as well.
That would be helpful. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, thank you. So you said there's 217 affordable housing units are being built, and there's about 590 total, something like that anyway. Doesn't matter if I've got those numbers correct or not. My question is, where are all these people coming from? Because that 217 10 years ago would solve the problem. And now it's not even close. And so I when I talk to people around town, they all say, oh, they're all locals. Well, they're not. I can tell you they're not. They're coming from somewhere. I don't know how they're getting here or what the deal is, but it's just getting exponentially worse all the time. And so I'm wondering if we have any idea how come these numbers are just going as high as they are on a continual basis.
And it's a really good question. I think it's really so complex. So I spent 10 years in Victoria, and I probably experienced what you're experiencing now, is that there was a housing boom that pushed everyone from Vancouver who couldn't afford homes into Victoria, which pushed us all out and up island. And I think this is what we're seeing, is really just this movement of people who are all of a sudden unable to survive in cities that are being gentrified and where prices are being inflated. And I think this is what's happening really across the island. I see a lot of development taking place, a lot of the homes where people would have had an ability to afford the rent are being renovated and then flipped. So I see that people are coming in and perhaps buying these homes, and again, for those who only have a really fixed income, are struggling to even try to get back into the rental market again. And many of those seniors in particular, we can see, have had their homes for 25 years, and all of a sudden are having to enter the housing market after 20 years of being in one home and being in one place. So this is really what's happening across across Canada. It is also really, a really poor planning across Canada when it comes to social housing. It stopped back in the 80s. And that's really a major piece of this, is that we're very behind in building social housing.
Councillor Swift.
Thank you. I know this is a bottomless pit that we could continue to try to fund, and I'm just wondering if you have any relationship with our MLA and access to those, whatever funds she might be able to help us with. And also, I'm just wondering, you identified $100,000 for some initiatives to prevent homelessness, and I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about what some of those initiatives might be.
And so, yes, well, so I do not have a relationship with Ronna Ray Leonard, and I feel that that will come. And I think just because I am so new in this role, I feel like it has been kind of just going with the flow for the last few months, but I'm going to be able to take a step and back and really start to build relationships with those who I have not connected with yet. But yeah, it's a really good point. I really would like to have that relationship. Some of the other initiatives that we did recommend to fund through the CVRD, is this what you're wondering about? Yeah, and so I'm going to bring up the chart, and I don't know if we have it there as well, just to explain some of them, but so those that have been approved, many of them were doing things a little more with a little more innovation and kind of filling in those gray areas of where people aren't getting services and supports. A lot of it had to do with kind of crises, emergency funding, that where do you find those little bits that are going to keep you home, keep you in your home? And so we have Woodshea Friendship Center, which provides a lot of those rental subsidies, emergency funds for those who are living in the outdoors. It could be outdoor gear that people are needing to stay safe and to stay warm. With Dawn to Dawn Action on Homelessness, again, there's a lot of those gray areas that people are dealing with that is not allowing them to stay in their homes. So it is after hours support that a lot of people aren't receiving. So mental health support, after hours support. It is apartment remediation. If an apartment is not in good shape, then helping someone to fix their apartment so they can remain in it. And it's a really, I think just being more open-minded that people are going to struggle, and we're not really going to know what that is, but they shouldn't have to choose between their home or their food. So how can we fill in a little bit of that funding right now when people are struggling so much financially? And so that's Dawn to Dawn Action on Homelessness. The North Island Rent Bank we had mentioned was that process of providing a little bit of extra funds and a loan to individuals who, again, just are in financial crises. Solid Outreach is a bit of an innovative project. This is a group that is peer-led. It's peer-led harm reduction that's been very successful in Victoria for the last 10, 15 years. And this project specifically is to support people who are living in the parks who have to decamp every day. So those who are living in Sims Park or any other parks, who many of them are very ill, some are elderly, some, just having other health issues, chronic health issues, where they just need a little more support, but they're not getting that extra resource or support in the morning. They're interacting with often with bylaw or RCMP. And so what Solid Outreach is planning to do is attend those that morning routine just to support and work alongside bylaw and say, well, yes, there's some rules and you do need to move, but let's, can I provide something to you? Can I assess your health? Is there anything that I can do for you? So it's just adding that bit of resources to and care to that service. And again, we talked about the caravan, but yeah, that's been a very successful project. And again, outreach based, which is so important. You're welcome.
Any other questions from council for Dana while we have her? Thank you very much. It's obviously a very multifaceted challenge, and for people that need a voice in advocacy, we thank the coalition for doing that work on bringing their voice to council. So thank you very much, and I will follow up with you with a couple of questions that we may find helpful for our funding decision in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Our next delegation is Brian McKay with the Comox Valley Citizens on Patrol for the overview of their activities. Welcome to Brian.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation. First of all, some of you probably had a chance to kind of quickly read the presentation as we had sent it before, but I can fill in some of the gaps through any of your questions you may have. But Citizens on Patrol, or COPS as we call ourselves, is a nonprofit society and been in operation in the Valley for about 29 years. And in fact, we've been working with ICBC and the RCMP for that length of time. We've got an amazing core of volunteers. When I say core, prior to the pandemic, we had membership in the numbers of hundreds. So we were able to do broader coverage of patrols. But one of the people that is with us here this evening is Mr. Don Johnson. He's been with us, I think, more than 25 years. So any in-depth history questions, I would imagine he would be able to answer. So we carry out a variety of functions, essentially from Fanny Bay to Oyster River. We do have in that grouping a small organization in the Merville area that are part of our group, and they do their own patrolling and speed watch. But because of our limited numbers, we're more limited now to the Comox Valley proper, being Courtenay, Comox itself, and we certainly have appreciated the support that the town of Comox has extended over the years to keep us in business. As you can see in the pictures up here, we have to provide the vans, and the maintenance. So this is where a large part of our funding goes. The speed reading apparatus is donated to us from ICBC, but there's still maintenance on these things that have to be done. We have an office that's headquartered in the city Courtenay-owned building at Billmore Park. And we recently had to spend several $1,000s to upgrade our security there because there's a lot of activity at night in that area. And it's turned out, I understand, being somewhat successful in catching graffiti artists at work up there. But we also help, in addition to the sort of evening patrols that we do to problem areas, as are pointed out to us, we also help the RCMP if they have a local vehicle problem. Maybe they're looking for a vehicle, they would ask us, they would let us know about a license plate, that if we're doing a patrol in a parking lot, if we went through, say, the mall up here, and there were parking, we could drive slowly through and see to identify if there's a car there. We also help with missing persons. So that's one of the, I think, more social aspects that can be quite satisfying. Now, you may see our van parked along roadways like this. I believe this is in Comox. I can't really see that. Yeah. And we identify the small speed limit sign down in the lower left corner, identify to traffic what the speed limit is, and then the speed reader is the larger box, I guess you'd call it, and it happens to be, in this case, in the back of the van, and it lets them know what the speed is. We obviously don't do ticketing, but it's interesting when we've worked, occasionally we've had the luck to work with an RCMP officer who's doing traffic detail, and we let them know where they're going to be, and when they come by, they're usually quite surprised at the number of speeders or how busy traffic is, because obviously their attention is on maybe bigger problems, but that becomes more of a, I suppose, a community issue. So during that documentation of speeding, we can also just observe any distracted driving, that being, I guess, the most obvious: cell phones, eating, drinking, that sort of thing. What we do is we gather the numbers, the number of vehicles, and the speeds by categories, by 5K categories. This data then we send to ICBC, so they have some traffic information. If there's a particular problem area, then they can send that to the RCMP for their attention. Also with distracted driving, it's very same. All we do is see somebody going by. There's usually two of us, one person watching the speeds and marking that down, and somebody else just keeping an eye. If they see a car going by, it's a tick. So it's the number of traffic, interactions and and the number of distracted driving. So we've worked in various areas in Comox along Lazo Road near the boat ramp, because there's usually a lot of racing down in that area. I know there's a speed reader permanently down there, but we can still work those areas. School zones, and quite often these are areas that are pointed out to either our office or through the RCMP that they feel that there's more speeding there. So we set up and just remind people as they come through, just make them aware what their speed is. Some people have gone by and waved at us and thanked us, I guess, because either they don't know the speed limit or they don't care, but they wave. So we try not to interact with anybody. And if they do stop, we've occasionally had somebody being a little grumpy. We just let them know that the speed limit is what it is, and we're just reminding people. The other aspect of patrolling is usually evenings, so usually a 3-hour shift. And what we're trying to concentrate on are areas that are evening activities are a problem. And these can be parking lots, schools, this sort of thing. I know we've driven around downtown areas where homeless people have been hanging out, but oftentimes when we're doing those patrols, the police are doing patrols there as well. Now, if we come across something of that nature that is a problem, then we let the police know, because we always advise the police when we have a patrol out, particularly in the evenings. And if we see something, the police are advised. Our patrols oftentimes we have a dispatcher in the office, and we have two-way radios that we stay in communication. If we see something, we would report to them. They would report to the RCMP. If there's no dispatcher, then we just call the RCMP ourselves and let them deal with it. So there are some statistics that I suppose we've all heard some of these things, but nearly 40% of police-reported crashes result in injury, and it's most often due to distracted driving. And there was a survey done that say that 1 out of 3 BC drivers will admit to using their cell phones upon occasion while they're driving. And while they're talking on their cell phones, there's an approximately 50%, they're unaware of approximately 50% of what's going on around outside the car. And distracted drivers are 5 times more likely to crash. So in 2023, the Citizens on Patrol observed 539 out of 2,527. So that's almost a quarter of the drivers exceeding speed limits at various locations in the valley. And during our speed monitoring and our patrols, our evening patrols, we've logged over 2,700 kilometers in this past year. Now, the town of Comox over the years has been contributing regularly to our society. I believe it was in the area of $4,500, something like that. Are you aware, Don? Or do you remember, Diane? No. But we certainly appreciate that. And this has been going on almost from the time we were established. So that's the length of time there's been a relationship with the town of Comox. So we're asking if you could find it in your budget again to continue supporting us. And anybody has a family member who would like to volunteer, we have a process where they could get in touch with our office. There's an interview process, an application. They have to be vetted by the RCMP. And so we're not policemen out there, but we have to know we don't have somebody out there that's got a vested interest in their own programs. So if there are any other questions, or any questions, we'd like to be able to answer them if we can.
Thank you very much, Brian. Councillor Swift, question.
Thank you. How many volunteers do you have, and do you go out every night? Or what's your schedule like?
Well, we have right now about 24 volunteers. And usually weekends is when we go out. Not every weekend, it depends on availability. Some of our volunteers still work. There's those of us that are retired, and I know my wife and I have more of an interest in the speed monitoring, so we do more of that than evening patrols. But just a matter of making our presence known. But that, we don't have a fixed schedule yet, but we do try to do weekends, because that seems to be when we get most of the problems being reported to us, people hanging around in parks or schools, just being a nuisance more than anything.
Councillor Blacklock.
Thanks, Brian. I very much appreciate the work that COPS does for our community, and it's great to know that there's people out there who are sort of the eyes and ears and assisting our police officers do their very difficult jobs. My question is about the changes to the RCMP Auxiliary Officer Program, and whether once those changes were implemented and it sort of became a more difficult assignment, we see fewer auxiliary officers today than we did, say, 5 years ago. Have any of those individuals transitioned to your organization?
Ottawa initiated the program 7 years ago, and it affected us as well as the auxiliaries, because the information that they pass on to us from county was extremely but it got I
We used to, my understanding is that we used to do events, and we could do traffic control events. Well, we can't do that. There's a liability aspect because we're volunteers. So I guess our role has been trimmed back. We do man barricades. We did that, and we have been doing it in the past with the Remembrance Day observances here in Comox, to keep the traffic off while they're doing the parade and their observance. We can do that sort of thing. We can man barricades, or if there's a market day event, we can do a foot patrol with, we just wear our jackets, just walk through the crowd, so just make it's a presence known. We can't really do anything. We're not allowed to interact with any problems, but we can certainly, it kind of helps.
How responsive, when you've kind of called in nuisance calls, or if there is something you're witnessing, have the police been? Like, is there a pretty good response from RCMP, or what's your experience been with that?
If it's fairly serious, yeah, they would get out pretty quickly. You know, there have been, I understand, at times when when one of our patrols has come across an accident, well, they'll come out to that pretty quickly. If there seems to be suspicious activity around a business, they're out pretty fast for that. If it's students at a schoolyard, they're a little slower.
So yes, very, because we hear different things, so I was
Yeah.
curious about their responsiveness. Do you happen to know what the overall budget for your society is in a year, so we can kind of see where Comox fits into that?
It seems to me, I have a figure in my mind, and we just went through a budget report at the beginning of the year. I think our budget's somewhere around $18,000.
Okay, I can follow up and maybe just get a
Yeah,
quick,
and we can
email back.
We can get to that. It's a matter of, I guess the maintenance of our van is one of the high
expenses.
because we have to buy a van when time comes. I don't know when that time is coming.
Right, but high volunteer hour, yeah, that's great. Councillor Kerr.
Thanks for the presentation. You mentioned your two main referral sources are RCMP and citizens. We get a lot of letters about people concerned about speeding on their street or in a certain area of town. If a citizen is concerned and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, we have a Facebook page. They can contact us through that.
Okay.
It's basically just be an email or a phone number, and somebody will pick up the call. But we would respond, if city council or administration were to get in touch with us and say there seems to be quite a bit of speeding on such and such an area, well, then we could concentrate on that. We went down to Back Road, last fall, I guess, and that's an eye-opener. So, and it's almost too dangerous to set up our van on that road. But the police are aware of it, obviously. They probably know that. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Any other, yeah, Councillor Swift, and then Councillor Hazlitt.
I'm just wondering how you prioritize where you go. Does it depend on the volunteers and their interests a lot, or?
Some of that. I suppose we have a monthly meeting, and we usually have information there where someone's, my community is concerned about speeding, say, or nighttime activity. And we'll go on that basis. If there's something more serious, the police would let us know. It would never be anything that would put us at risk, but, so that's kind of how we operate, simply because we don't have a lot of volunteers now.
Councillor Hassett.
Thanks. I've just got a couple of questions here. How much of your guys' time is spent in Comox?
I'm only going to guess, I think about a third of our time. And I'm guessing that because we do have probably about a third of our members or volunteers from Comox. And because we have sort of personal interest that way, looking after our own communities, they would spend time. And they would have a better idea more immediately where the problems are, if there's been a problem. I know that the Comox delegation, if you want to call it, has been very active in evening patrols. And some of the volunteers will take their own cars out in the evening and just get a two-way radio from the office, and they can stay in touch with the dispatcher. But it's most effective when we use the van, because it stands up.
Fair enough. And then you had mentioned a lot of the data that you collect goes back to ICBC. Are you subsidized by them at all, or is it mainly municipalities that are providing you guys?
So mainly the municipalities, they subsidize us financially to a small amount of that 18,000. But they do provide equipment, even the Visi vests that we wear. And they certainly, if you have problems with the speed readers, they're the ones that you would have to deal with. And they provided us with two in the overall Comox Valley. The one major one in the van we use in Comox Courtney area mostly. The group out in Merville area, ICBC, gave them another, or at least we had a second set of readers, and that went to them, that being the reader and the radar. That went to them. They don't have a van. And now we've got some interest from Hornby Denman, but we haven't really had a chance yet to go out and investigate just how much time it would take, whether they should have their own readers, and how long it would take to get enough volunteers to make it practical.
Then my last question is, you had mentioned the maintenance on the van. Where does the majority of your funding go to?
Majority? In the past year, it's been the van and the upgrade on the security system. And I think our radio system and our computer system is the upgrade.
Yeah, we have a good need for our radio. We have our
So I mean, although the office is loaned to us, I should say, by the city of Portland, we have to maintain it. We have to be responsible for the security. We have to have the lines running in this sort of things. And that amount, we had to upgrade the service. So I don't know if you're in the van, I don't know, probably a couple of years before we needed the van.
So with that, are you, and with the anticipation of having to upgrade the van coming, is the society banking money?
Oh, yes.
So that you guys have got enough to buy that outright when it should?
We would
time
have
comes?
enough, if we needed today, yeah, we probably would have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thanks for the presentation, and you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to depart as we continue our meeting. Thank you. Option is yours. Okay, so moving on to page 6, we have adoption of the regular council meeting minutes for March 20th, 2024 to be adopted. Seconded. Any questions or comments on the regular council meeting minutes from March 20th? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. We have the minutes of the public hearing meeting held on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024 to be adopted. If I have a mover. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the public hearing meeting minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. So moving on to the consent agenda, if I can get a motion to receive the 4 items on the consent agenda. Moved and seconded, and all those in favor of receiving the consent agenda? Opposed? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes, thank you. And does anyone have any of the items 1 through 4 that they would like to pull out for discussion?
I would
Councillor
agree
Grant.
with number 2.
Okay, number 2, so number 2, request for town to consider seasonal excess yard waste drop-off. Over to you, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I know Courtney's doing something, I'm not sure that they've got a plan that would work for us, but have we got any thoughts of what we're gonna do as we're getting into that season? I think we're gonna need to do something, so.
Yeah, it's the discussion of last week, so we'll go over to CAO Wall for an update on what Comox may be able to do.
We're exploring options. Right now, this was a bit of a surprise for us. This isn't what we had sort of planned with the city of Courtney not too long ago. So we are taking a look at what we can do. If council will give me a little bit of time to come back with some options.
Is there a way to look at possibly being able to put out a whole bunch of yard waste bags once or twice a year, just, you know, I know we're gonna run into this problem every year, but forever we can't find something.
Yeah.
Rather than picking a lot and having, you know, like, I was just telling Jonathan, you got 20 bags. Good luck getting those in your Tesla and getting them out to wherever that lot's gonna be, right? So I think we could do a better job of that, is all I'm saying.
One of the options is looking at a couple days of unlimited pickup. That is a potential, it's just the cost. We are so far, and things may change, but so far we're not seeing a large demand from the community. Most of what we're hearing is that people who had thought they weren't going to have enough capacity being surprised that they do, given the weekly pickups and the size of the bins. But we do want to make sure that we are looking at potential options if it becomes an issue.
Yeah, and the thought of seeing if potentially people can get their bins earlier, but that's still being looked at. So hopefully there'll be some option that we can come up with, and once we do, we'll make sure that gets broadcasted out, being timely for spring. Councillor Blacklock.
I do know that, you know, I can speak anecdotally from my own street, is that people are working together to identify, you know, the gardeners are using their neighbors' green bins and so forth. So there is a bit of sharing going on between neighbors, and that's great to see, people coming up with their own solutions for this. Yeah, the unlimited yard waste thing was, let's be honest, we had people who were abusing that, right, in this town. It was probably one of the impetuses for moving to this system in the first place. So the other, I guess, you know, I don't think we want to go back to a bonfire day and burning everything in our backyards. So let's find a solution to this. I think there is one to be.
So just as a follow-up, is a motion required, or can it be something that's forwarded to our next council meeting for an update on without, okay, so no motion required, but an in discussion item. It was a bit of a surprise that there was a Courtney plan, so. Any other questions or comments on item number 2 there? Okay, any other items on 1 through 4 to be pulled from the consent agenda, Councillor Haslett? Number 3, the complaint about appearance of their garbage trucks. As
Second.
seconder, please, thank you.
So maybe just, I just need a refresher. We were supposed to have electric garbage trucks, and then there was a problem with them, and they're currently using the old trucks, and we're still waiting for the arrival of these electrical trucks, is that correct?
That's correct.
Sure. So unfortunately, we're stuck with old trucks for the moment, but once we get the new ones, they'll be shining.
I hope so.
We'll have to do a somewhat of a generic response because it's somewhat out of our control on timing, but there are new trucks coming. Councillor Grant.
So I bumped into Heather the other day, I've known her for 100 years, and then I just told her all that, and she's good with that. She just looks out and sees these ugly old trucks going down the street, and going, what are we doing? But she's fine with it, as long as that's the case.
Yeah, it is a notable item. They do look old for a new service. Any other items 1 through 4 from the consent agenda? Councillor Kerr.
Item 4?
Sure. And just as an update, that was reviewed by Recreation, and it was granted for this family, but also as a general policy that there'd be some more flexibility on kind of traditional versus different makeups of family models. So that number 4 was granted, but as a more general policy to be flexible if that's correct, your staff. Yeah, there'll be a little bit more flexibility on looking at family dynamic and recreation.
Wonderful, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for pulling that item.
All right, pull up number one.
We might as well. So
Might
number
as
one.
well, because we've done them all, but no, just on this item, I think that, I know a little bit about this program. It's a really effective program that they've got going. And they're really asking us for a letter to help them secure some funding from the federal government. So I don't know if that would be council's wish or not, but I would certainly think it would be a good idea.
Councillor Mayor.
Yeah, thanks for pulling that one out. We did talk about this at one of the Food Policy Council meetings, and some of the local food programs actually really rely on these folks coming up island, and they also help to transport some of the food from places like Lush Valley, some of the food boxes, the fresh food boxes up North Island. So I would fully support us writing a letter of support.
Sounds good, and they gave kind of very clear direction on kind of what they needed, so there's a little bit of a template to use. Do you want to make a motion, Councillor?
Well, I was just wondering if we needed to, but if we do, I would just move the recommendation because I think everything is in there that we need.
I don't think there's a recommendation, yeah, but move that we write a letter of support.
Well, there's a template in there
Of the
letter,
template.
So you can just
Correct.
fill in your name and stuff. So I would just move the recommendation.
Okay, and a seconder for sending a letter of support for their federal funding, I believe it would be.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor, for seconding. Any questions or comments on sending a letter of support for that Nanaimo facility that does provide some local servicing? I was surprised the number they said coming to the Comox Valley, so it is servicing some of our nonprofits. All those in favor of sending a letter of support? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. So that letter of support will be sent, and I would just say, if possible, to administration, I think it needs to be ASAP, as they were hoping for funding by May, so sometime in April would be fantastic. So we've pulled all of those consent agenda items now. And we're moving on to page 21, unfinished business. We have the rezoning application RZ 23-5, which is a zoning amendment to permit the liquor store at 692 Anderton Road. The Comox zoning amendment bylaw number 1850.41 be given third reading. That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that third reading? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously, thank you. Moving on, we have the Comox Bay Sailing Club. The council received the April 3rd, 2024 report from the Director of Operations and the Asset and Facilities Manager titled Comox Bay Sailing Club for information. But before we move and second that, I will update, we did actually adopt this as a recommendation to pass. So unless we decide to go back on something we've already moved, just for information, this is information we asked for from staff and from CAO Wall, but we have moved that we support this to happen. So just to update on that as a reminder. Yeah, but just remind, that there's no action required as we have already supported this. So a motion to receive. And any questions or comments on the report that was provided? Councillor Swift.
Thank you. I think we wanted the information regarding their relationship with Compass Adventures, and it sounded like from the information we got that there's not an issue there. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So it was a check and a good information back. Okay, any other questions or comments before we vote on receipt of this sailing club report? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously, thank you. Moving on, we have the potential impacts of Bill 44 on our urban forests from Mel McLaughlin, our March 6, 2024 delegation. At our March 6th RCM meeting, Mel McLaughlin from SOF-CD presented concerns about Bill 44 affecting our urban forests, and the organization asked council to advocate for protection in 4 items that's listed there on page 29 to 30. Any questions, comments, or motions on the receipt of the delegation? Okay, so we're receiving that as information. Councillor Kerr.
Oh, sorry.
Just a question about number 3, assign a Parks Department arborist to help maintain our existing urban forest. That happens currently, does it not? We have our arborist either on staff or by contract?
Yeah, we both, so we have a designated arborist position, and we also have arborists that we will use on contract. And I think what will help inform this better is the urban forest management plan that we're going to be working on.
Councillor Grant.
I was just gonna move receipt.
I think we actually don't need a motion receive, it's just there's an item summary there for after delegation. Questions, comments on that? Okay, moving on, there are no special reports, no bylaw adoptions, no new business, no notices of motion. Under correspondence on page 34, we have a request for a special event flyby on from the email dated March 18th, and this is for the Comox Air Show, May 16th, 17th, and 18th, so there's a request
I
there.
will move receipt and we grant the request.
Moved, seconded, any questions or comments on the flyby request? All those in favor? Opposed? That passes unanimously, thank you. Page 38 from Mayor Michelle Staples from the City of Duncan. There's a request for support for AVICC resolution to remove fail to appear charges in police statistics. That was something I know locally in our region was discussed as a problem, as any of, I'm gonna get this confused, but if a Comox crime fails to appear, it shows as a Courtenay stat because the courthouse is in Courtenay, so they're trying in the City of Duncan and region to also correct that issue. So it would be that those are just removed from the police stats to show more accurate delineations from each municipality. So I think at this point, this is just asking for support of the motion in person, but they may be asking for a letter, just check. A letter of support before AVICC, I believe.
Letter will send them on.
Yeah, it looks like it's just going through their motion, but I think it is.
Oh, anyway, okay.
Yeah, it looks like just from how it's written, it's just the motion itself for support. Make sure we don't miss that. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, it's looking for support, so it's basically a 4-page detailed letter of what's behind it and why we would back it. But I know regionally, we've said we have the same issue with our courthouse being in the municipality next to us. So just for your information, for those who are at AVICC, do we need to move receipt on that? Of the correspondence? It's just there for correspondence, okay. Okay. Just getting back to page, 1 minute. So we have no late items. Reports from council, we'll just go around. And again, if it's something where there's an update that you feel is important for council, but we won't go through the different events that we've attended individually. I'll start with Councillor Blacklock.
Well, since our last meeting, I've attended a BIA event and things are looking really positive for our Summerfest Market Day on Comox Avenue. That's coming up on June 22nd. I hope to see you all there. There'll be events for the kids and apparently a beverage garden. So look forward to that. And the Comox Valley Substance Use Collaborative met this morning. I wanted to let you know that there will be an event happening on June 11th at the Florence Fehlberg Center, and that will be to summarize the phase 2 of their drug strategy as well as phase 3, go over phase 3. That organization is kind of in a wind down phase where they're going to be issuing an expression of interest to interested social service providers to carry on the work of the collaborative. So there is an EOI going out this week on that front. So that is the news from the Substance Use Collaborative. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Councillor Blacklock. Councillor Swift.
I have nothing to report except a very successful Easter event at the Fehlberg where over 1,100 people came through the park, and it was 1,100 that came through the counted part of the park. So there were probably a few more, but it was a fantastic day, and it's a free event for everybody, so it was very well received. Yeah. 694 hot dogs.
I attended the Destair House AGM where they elected the new board. To thank the outgoing members who will not be returning to the board, as well as the fire hall had their biannual, every 2-year program where they got all the schools, semi-annual, there it is, to have all the schools send members for a youth academy. Really well attended, beautiful day, fires were fought and the fires lost. So excellent work to the staff and all the volunteers at the fire hall, and it was really great. Quite a few members of the community, as far as organizations, really helped support it as well. So a great event, and I encourage you all to have a look in a couple of years from now.
Thank you for that update, Councillor Kerr and Councillor Grant, Councillor Mayer.
Thank you. Just a quick note that CVRD is hosting the next elected officials forum is later this month, April 16th at 4 p.m. The topic is tourism, so it should be interesting given our tourism efforts here in Comox. So if you have an RSVP, you can let Cami know or Lisa Dennis at CVRD. We had the Coalition End Homelessness meeting this morning, as we heard about. Again, just thinking about those units, I think the really positive thing about that news announcement recently is that the supportive housing units and the shelter are going to be on the same site. So if you think, as I learn more about this issue, as you think about the ladder from unhoused to fully housed, if you're unhoused, then you get into the shelter. And then if you're in the shelter with support, you can move into supportive housing. And then from supportive housing, you can move up to subsidized housing or non-market rental housing, and then hopefully to being fully housed yourself. So I think it's great that those units are there together, and also that the extreme weather response shelter might be there as well. So it's kind of like coalescing those in one spot. I think it's a pretty smart thing and a great news for the community, and there's a lot of excitement at the coalition about this. And I also want to just say a big thanks to Courtenay councillors and staff and Mayor Wells as well for all the work that they've done behind the scenes. I think it's been 8 months of negotiations with the province about this site, and finally some really good news that's much needed. And last but not least, another event is coming up April 18th, the BC Nonprofit Housing Association. They're hosting a regional education and networking trade show taking place in Courtenay. It moves around the province and happens to be in Courtenay this month. So you can RSVP for that. It's on a Thursday, April 18th. Thanks.
I just attended the Food Policy Council meeting, and there's also a municipal food policy subcommittee meeting. But the big news was the announcement, I think, yesterday from the federal government of a universal school food program. And there's been a ton of work done across the country, but also here in the Valley to advocate for that. And what's so important about it is that it helps alleviate some of the financial stress on families, and also gives us stigma-free access to healthy school food for families who might not be accessing the programs otherwise. So that's good news, and we'll see, I think they're hoping to launch that in September, which is a very quick turnaround. So we'll see how that rolls out here in the Valley. That's it for me, thanks.
Thank you. We've had some positive announcements, which is nice. Just on their rent front, which is coming April 18th, which they only have a couple per year throughout the province. So Courtney's really excited to be hosting that. We were sent a free registration code. So if you happen to be interested, if you look through that, they did send a code where you don't have to pay for the registration, or the municipality doesn't have to pay. And they're mostly talking about senior housing, youth housing, active development in the community, including Indigenous housing, but in general, it'll be municipal leaders, some of the nonprofit societies, and then BC Housing and BC Nonprofit Housing. So there was a free registration that was sent out for councillors as they want some representation on I believe it's mostly the full day, April 18th. So thanks for introducing that. And I was away on vacation, so I have nothing to report. And with that, there are no media questions. Any questions from the public? No questions from the public. We have no in camera to go through tonight, so I'll call for adjournment at 6:11. Second, is there a seconder? All those in favor? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.